Thank you for joining us for another edition of AFL Riverina TV as we count down to finals. There's just 3 weeks to go in the RFL and 2 weekends until finals time in the Farrer League. I'm Simon Anderson. Joining me at the desk to go through it all is Tommy Walker from AFL Riverina. Tommy, thanks for joining us.
No worries, mate.
Mate, before we look at this weekend's matches in the OAMPS RFL, let's take a look at the ladder and see how things stand because the top 5 is nearly set now. Colin Gully out in front on 56 points. They'd have to do some pretty awful things in the last couple of rounds to give up the minor premiership. Below that, do you see much changing from 2 to 5?
To be honest, no. I think that the finals are pretty much set. I think Mangoplah should hold on to second with Coolum in third. That would be a great battle. And Tigers and Gammain, they'd probably round out the final series for the RFL. Yeah, as you said, it's probably disaster would stop Colin Gully from finishing on top with the week off.
We'll have a look at this weekend's fixtures, kicking it off with Mangoplah up against Gammain. Who do you think this is a more important game for? Mango can obviously stamp their authority and hold on to second, or Gammain a good opportunity to show they're serious about finals footy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mangoplah at home against Gammain, huge supporter base at the Gammain Grongong Madong. On the weekend, we had Christian McPherson coming back for Gammain. He came out and kicked some goals. I'm sure Nathan Irvin would be worried about Fatso McPherson. He's a legendary figure out at Gammain, one of the better players we've seen in recent times. I think it would be important for Mango that they probably want to put out a big performance, especially at home, big crowd. The battle will be obviously in the midfield, and how do you shut down Christian after last week?
Well, coming out and kicking 8 goals after, I think you mentioned about 12 months off. Has he come back a little bit too early? Do you think he maybe should have come back for this fixture and done it as a bit more of a surprise against the top 2 side?
Oh, well, that's interesting. I think Gammain were just hoping to put the best team on the park last week and tick that box. I'm not sure if they were expecting him to come out and kick 8 goals, but obviously had a huge impact on the game and was clearly the best player on the ground. You
mentioned his attacking prowess. What do the Lions need to do in the midfield and in defence to shut down Mango's attackers?
Well, Gammain are all out in the middle with Kotzer and Rankin. They're 2 very experienced players, very, very good. Obviously, Mangoplah obviously have a superstar in Mitch Danaher, and Colin Sandbrook has come back to Mangoplah this year and has been one of the standout players. So it's an intriguing game, but I think with Mangoplah at home, that they probably might be too good for Gammain.
We'll move on to Colin Gully and Turvey Park. Gully coming off the bye, as we've mentioned time and time again, unbeaten since round 1. Do you think they'll just continue that this weekend?
Yeah, they should. Turvey Park, they had a lot of injuries. They're starting to fall away a little bit. Obviously, they should be happy with how the year has gone. They've struggled the last couple of years, but they've seen improvement this year under Billy Serrato. Gully should win though.
We'll move on to Wagga Tigers up against Leighton. What would you say the strengths are of the Tigers at the moment?
Well, at the moment they're in every game. So far they've lost a number of games close. There's nothing been in the margin. So when they come up against Leighton Whitten, they'd probably just want a really strong performance and a good win. Not Leighton Whitten coming off last week against Turvey Park, they'll be confident. So Tigers will have to really battle hard to get the win, but I'm sure that they just want to win after some close losses this year.
And we'll move on to Griffith and Narrandera. I guess this one a little bit of a battle to avoid the wooden spoon.
Yeah, to avoid the wooden spoon. Griffith v Narrandera. I think Griffith at home, they've proven a good team at home, so I think they'll be too good for Narrandera.
Move over to the OAMPS Farrer League now. We've known the top 5 sides for a while. Let's take a look at where they stand and who they still have to play. Colliambly out in front on 44 points, but I'd say arguably they have the hardest run home with Mara and East Wagga. A lot of traffic from 2 to 5. What do you make of the rest of the team's run home, Tommy?
Well, it's an interesting run home. I think Temora versus North Wagga and Jets is probably one of the more interesting run homes. North Wagga obviously beat Temora last time they played, and Temora and Jets have a huge rivalry. So I'm sure Jets before the end of the finals will want to somehow put a dent in Temora's run into the finals. Mara have a really tough road trip away this week at Collie. That'll be a really, really tough battle, and obviously the Rock at home, they have a bit of a rivalry too. So I'm sure the Rock will want to knock Mara off last game of the year. In 4th at the moment we have East Wagga and they have CSU this week. That should be a comfortable win, but Collie last round, so they can probably begin their finals campaign the last round heading into finals. And North Wagga have a tough battle against Temora this weekend. I'm sure that's something they'll be looking forward to. They seem to get themselves up for Temora, and CSU to top things off to get the cobwebs out and get ready for finals.
Well, let's take an in-depth look at the fixtures. As we mentioned, Colliambly up against Mara. Collie gave an indication of just how hard they are to beat at home. A 12-goal win over North Wagga. Mara's definitely going to have to take their A game over there.
Yeah, for sure. And if you remember round one, Collie Ambley led all day, only to be pipped on the post by Mara. I think it was a bit of a heartbreaker for him. I'm sure Collie Ambley want to turn that around and get a good win against Mara to prove that they're just as good as them. It will be an interesting battle. Clint Taylor back last week for Mara, exceptionally good player. The issue with Mara is Brad Turner, probably their best player, went down injured last week. Whether or not he returns this week or next week before finals, that's a bit of a question mark. I really like Collie at the moment. They're ticking all the boxes, and they should be too good for Mara, especially with Brad Turner now out. Too
good this week, but do you think the competition is now theirs to lose?
No, I wouldn't say that. Not with Temora still in the hunt. Temora reigning premiers. They're one of the better teams in the competition. I wouldn't be writing them off. Mara, they might be getting a few injuries at the wrong time of year, but they're starting to really tick some boxes. In East Wagga, they're coming with a rush. Griffith kicked 10 on the weekend. They're really starting to find some form. So, and we've seen North Wagga beat some of the top teams this year as well. So the top 5 is really interesting. It's a great mix. It's exciting for the competition. Who wins is anyone's guess. But at the moment, Collie Ambley being on top is an advantage. But yeah, like I said, Temora, reigning premiers, you'd be silly to write them off.
Well, let's move on to the reigning premiers. They're up against North Wagga. It is hard to know where they're at because they had the 180-point win over CSU. It doesn't really tell much about whether or not they fixed the problems that hampered them against East Wagga.
No, you're right. We'll find more about Temora and how they're progressing this week against North Wagga. North Wagga will come out firing, no doubt in the world. Whether or not the CSU win is any indication, you're right, it doesn't really give too much away, but I'm sure the boys had a good hit out and got a bit of extra fitness before finals this week. Obviously, I'll tip Temora. I think that would be really close. As I stated a couple of times, the games between Temora and North Wagga has been very, very close, and I can't see this being any different, but Temora I think will be very difficult.
We'll move on to CSU and East Wagga, more or less a training run for the Hawks. How many do you reckon Gep can kick on the weekend?
Gep will be in line for a few. If he can kick 10 against the Rock, he might be able to snag a few against CSU. That would be a tough game for CSU. They're just wanting to wind the season down. They're in the last couple of rounds, so I'm sure they're fired up just to leave an impact on the finals, see if they can somehow be competitive, win a couple of quarters against East Wagga. But like you said, East Wagga leading into finals. They want to keep ticking those boxes, and they should be too good.
And rounding it out, the Rock up against the Northern Jets. We mentioned that the Rock played quite well last week. The Jets, both teams have had better seasons, but it's shaping up as an all right one with both of them playing for pride.
Yeah, for sure. 7-8 years ago, these were arguably the 2 top teams in the Farah League, and now they're not making finals this year. It's been a bit of a development year for both those clubs. Definitely pride is on the line. I'm sure both teams will want to win before heading out in the off-season. I think Rock you could almost say, I wouldn't say they're unlucky, but they were so competitive against East Wagga last week. I think at one point they might have been 2-3 goals up in that last quarter to fall away. I'm sure the guys at the Rock were disappointed. Northern Jets, they've been developing slowly getting there. Obviously, a bit of a tough loss against Mara last week. I'll tip the Rock. I think they're at home, and I think they'll be keen to improve from last week.
Another great weekend of footy on the way. Tommy, thanks for joining us.
No worries.